Frida Gustavsson, welcome to An Actor Despairs. How are you doing?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm great. I'm great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. It is like such an honor. You are incredible in Vikings Valhalla. Your work is, it is immeasurable, the work that you're doing. We live in such an interesting time where everyone, wants to be strong and dynamic but it not just be this, forced, you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
that character's so nuanced and developed, and it just that journey. I was thinking about this the other day with and talking to a friend, is like, thought, we have so many shows now, it's kind of overwhelming. Like
Yeah.
that experience of like binging a show and not being distracted by an iPhone or, one of the million other things. Like your performance in that show, I couldn't stop. The whole time
Oh,
my
you're
eyes
too
were on
kind.
you.
You're too kind. I'm blushing over here.
You're so amazing and you glow in that
You.
role. And I'm just so excited you're going to take over the world. And it's just the beginning of so many amazing things. And I'm truly honored and humbled to have you here.
Oh my God, what an intro. Thank you so much for having me. I'm such a huge fan of the podcast, and I can't wait to get into the nitty-gritty of everything that both you and I love, the process, the
Yeah.
acting, the story, the path. And I just want to say, I feel the same way you feel about Freitas. When she came into my life, I just felt like this is such a unique, rare opportunity to get to play someone who is so complex, who can be so loud and so big, yet vulnerable. And I mean, she's changed my life in so many ways, and I'm so immensely grateful towards Jeb Stuart, who created her, and everyone at Netflix and MGM for bringing this story to life.
But I think on behalf of all the viewers around the world, thank you for bringing her to life, because so much of that work, obviously, yes, there's writing and there's production and a crew and, Leo and everyone involved, but
Yeah.
you really, you're an artist, and I'm excited to get to talk about how all that happened. But how like to do this. Let's start at the beginning. You grew up
Yeah,
in Sweden, right?
I did. Yeah, I grew up in a suburb outside of Stockholm in a super sporty family, normal kind of working class family. And I was always this like little theater monkey. I love to perform. I love to involve my brothers as my backup dancers or make them be my actors in my own homemade movies. And it was just my dream to always play characters and to express myself. But in the environment where I came from, that wasn't really something that you could see as a job. So I never really gave it my 100% go at trying to become an actor. By happenstance, I got scouted and became a teenage model.
Yeah, of course.
And
I have a lot of friends who are models, and I'm sure we've crossed paths at one of those. But I know that world, and we can talk about that too because it's so
yeah,
interesting. But
sure.
let's first, talk to me about are your parents artists?
No, my mom is a teacher and my dad is a salesman. And no one in my family ever came from like a creative background. I think kind of the suburban life in Stockholm, my brother played hockey, my other brother played football, I did athletics, and it was kind of like sports. You go skiing, maybe once a year you go to, a museum with school.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I didn't have that creative environment growing up. So for me, it was just kind of left on the shelf as
What
something that I would dream about in my own life, but didn't really come to fruition.
for like entertainment and escapism purposes and your relationship to entertainment, was it a Swedish landscape or were you consuming a lot of American content?
Well, both. I just remember like, being the kind of first generation who had like smartphones and internet. I remember being like 10, 11 on Google, like looking up like paintings or artists. And I remember being like 11, 12, and I got a book about Christo and Jean-Claude, who make these huge landscape art pieces. And it just, for me, it was a way to escape kind of like gray suburbia. And it was just artists in general, but also film. Yeah, of course, American productions because they were so different. They were so much richer. In Sweden, we're kind of famous for our kind of serious socialist kind of commentary or Bergman. So to watch American film and TV growing up, like Sopranos or Sex in the City, these like
Yeah.
big, like big characters who got to just do wrong and be so big, but also very glamorous. I love that. I devoured all of that.
That's amazing. And so at that point, I know is it true at 12 you got discovered at Ikea for
Yeah,
scouting
yeah.
for so
Eating meatballs, of course.
I love doing that. I'm glad that's okay because every time I go to Ikea, obviously I have to do that. But
Yeah.
so what before you like right before you got discovered, was there any kind of like acting classes in Sweden or like a theater camp or anything that you were
Yeah,
doing?
yeah. I went to a theater class, I think once or twice a week. They made me bring my older brother Eric, and he absolutely hated it. And it was the best time of the week for me. I was quite shy, always growing up, and it was my time to just let out all of my weird kind of dreams, and I could let all of my social inhibitions just go. It was the best. I loved it so much. And my mom brought me to a couple of auditions, and I got a few smaller parts when I was like a child. And
Amazing.
then yeah, and it was just like it was the best. I was fully envisioning this is where my life was going to take me. I loved being seen as an adult. I loved having that responsibility of learning my lines and showing up and being on time and performing. Oh, I loved it. And then kind of like puberty hit and I became really tall. My body really changed and I became so self-conscious about the way that I looked and about the space that I took being like super tall but still kind of 12 and I completely lost my self-confidence and I
I
quit all of it.
same happened to me. Wow, that's I identify with that on such a profound level. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, of course.
So then obviously when you're at IKEA and this thing happens and you are feeling self-conscious about your body, did that seem kind of peculiar that of all things, that
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I thought I was being pranked. You remember those like 90s and
oh
early
punked
2000
like
Yeah, yeah, like
yeah.
there was going to be like a hidden camera. They're like, look at this geeky girl having dinner with her dad, thinking she's going to be a model. And I was just kind of looking around, going like, where's the camera? Oh, there's no camera. And I spoke to my dad about it, and he's like, maybe it could be a good way for you to, you'll get some experience. You don't have to, when you apply for drama school, maybe you don't have to, work two jobs and
Yeah.
maybe you can, you can earn a little bit of money, but also it's a way for you to kind of take your body back and like feel confident. Look, there's somebody who appreciates you in the way that you look. And it's another way for you to express yourself. So I'm really thankful. My dad has always been really wise and a big supporter of
What's
like
your
my
dad's name?
independence. Leif, which
Leif?
is so
No,
funny that
no
like Leif,
way.
like my brother in the show, and in the show, my father's name is Eric, like my real life brother. So it's all kind of meant to be in this weird way.
Wow. Well, shout out
Yeah.
to the Gustafsson family. I
Yay.
hope they're all tuning in. That's amazing. And so then when you had that opportunity, was there a real moment of like, you talked about talking with your father about whether you wanted to do it or not?
I mean, I was quite young and I still, I was in school. I was 14 when I started working internationally. And when I was 15, I convinced my parents that it was totally wise for them to let me move away from them and move to Tokyo by myself. And and so for some crazy reason, I convinced them that that was great, and they let me do it. So I took my things and I began my journey by myself. And in a way, looking back at it now, being 30, kind of crazy to let a teenager move to the other side of the world by yourself. But at the same time, I'm so incredibly grateful the path that I had. It taught me the value of hard work. I started working like two jobs a day, 18-hour a day, 6-day weeks, and just grinding. And I'm so thankful for that now. I think I have a really good work ethic and all of those hours in front of the camera.
Yeah.
It helps. It helps. And I'm really grateful for that.
And do you think that, eventually it allowed you to connect back to your confidence and your presence and your physicality?
I think so. For me, there was always, I was very self conscious about being so tall and coming into an environment where that was finally celebrated and seen as something that was, made me special and made me unique instead of just being like a freak. It took me a while, but it still got me to a place of kind of where I am now. And then Freitas on top of that, I think my physicality helped immensely in creating her as a character
Yeah.
because she demands so much space. She needs to be seen. Her physicality is her biggest weapon. And for me to finally find a place, an outlet to put all of that in was a vessel for all of my insecurities and just shoot him into her was so helpful.
And I don't want to gloss over the amazing success you had and all the brilliant work you did in that industry. Was that, I know it wasn't acting yet and we didn't get to Vikings, but was it fulfill like it's a two-part question. Were you
Mhm.
having fun, but also how did you stay away from the darkness that sector can have? Because it can be really dark, and it's really easy to get caught up in that kind of hedonistic lifestyle. And
Yeah.
you've such an amazing personality, and you're just so uncorrupted by any of that, especially now how dark that world can be.
Yeah. Well, you know me now. No, I'm only kidding. But yeah, it is a hard world. I think for me, once I had great support, and especially from my father growing up. But also, I didn't grow up with a lot of money. We didn't grow up with a lot of extravagances. And I think for me, I saw the careers from a very early age. I was very focused, and I want to build a lasting career. I don't want to just go into this because it's fun or because I can get a nice handbag or I can make a lot of money.
Right.
I saw this as a way for me to, build my Rolodex of characters and experiences that I'm going to funnel into my next career, which was always acting. I couldn't really vocalize it to everyone around me because I felt really self-conscious about saying, hey, I'm a model, but I want to be an actress. There's a lot of people who've got prejudice against that.
I can
But
imagine.
I always had that path. And I think that helped me in the sense of worked really hard. I didn't really have that much time to go into other things. And then I also did school. I mean, I had to do high school on distance, sitting
Oh,
with my
you
laptop backstage
wow.
at Fashion Week. They're like, first looks. And I'm like, let me just send in my math exam. It was,
That's amazing.
yeah, it was a crazy time.
And you
And
graduated?
I did, yeah,
That's a
100%.
huge.
I went to university too. I'm quite glad I had a great support system around me. And I've seen a lot of dark things in that industry. I've also seen a lot of really beautiful things for
Yeah,
me.
there are
I,
great people, and I
yeah,
don't I don't want to make it seem
no, no,
myopic. I
no, no,
apologize.
but
Yeah,
it's absolutely true. I mean,
yeah.
it's a really hard industry, and I think the biggest issue is that a lot of girls start working when you're underage. I mean, I remember coming onto a movie set, and you would have people who would be maybe 17 who had tutors or their parents there. And I'd be so shocked. And I was like, where were those tutors when I was 14,
Yeah.
traveling the world by myself? It's a different view of kind of taking care of younger talent in the movie industries towards the fashion industry. And I think that's maybe the bigger difference. Also in the act, I mean, when you're an actor, you're seen as a creative collaborator. Your voice matters, and you're a part of the team. I would like to think that in a lot of the stuff I did in my fashion years, I was a collaborator, but for most of it, you're the vessel for someone else's creativity.
Right.
You're kind of the mirror that you want to mirror their thoughts. And as much as I want to put into it, it's still a two-dimensional image. Whereas when you work with a character, you can create something that lives and breathes. So in a way, it's kind of like drama school, but in the most strange way, because you get to learn so much about your body and how to work in front of a camera, and you get so much set experiences doing interviews and stuff like that, which is great. But you've been limited to creating something that doesn't live and breathe in the same way.
So was there an isolating moment, or was that moment university where you're like, I've got to get out, or I've got to focus on what I want to get to? And
Yeah, I think for me, starting working mostly in like high fashion and meeting people like John Galliano, who was then at Dior, or Jean Paul Gaultier, and having these people that I admired so much look at me and they're like, Frida, you're an actress. Like you're not a model. You're an actress. And they're like, we see it in you when you go out, you perform it, you sell it, you're invested, you create a character. I would come up with my notebook and be like, so my research is this, and I'm thinking with this outfit, maybe she goes to like lunch here and her friends are these kind of people, and maybe they talk about this, and they're like, whoa, 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 this is not normal kind of modeling preparation. And it was so wonderful for me to have people in the industry that I looked up to so much who were invested in me bringing that forward and supporting that. I felt really seen by people that I love and adored. And I think that really helped me to kind of leap off of this train that was just going so fast, because it was scary. You had a career. I had a career that was working, and you're
Yeah.
making money, and to just look at everyone and say like, guys, I'm sorry, I'm going to quit. I'm going to move back to Sweden. I'm going to apply to drama school. I'm at the top of my career, but I don't know. I just need to do this. It was a scary moment, but I felt really empowered knowing that at least for a few people, they'd seen me as something more, and that really helped me.
Well, I hope you know, and I applaud the immense courage that takes because, finding success in any field, no, it doesn't matter what it is hard enough. But to then find success and then still go after what your dreams are. Few people, they do that. And to do that, it takes immense courage. So I'm just so proud of you. And when you did that, you know, in the time that you started modeling to then when you were going to go fully after it, how much did the landscape change, as these streamers started to rise, as Swedish content started being picked up on Netflix, like shows like The Killing and really just a lot of Scandinavian content. Did it really start to kind of see a different way that, before, if like we're so used to people that aren't in the business seeing Hollywood as a binary of New York or LA, but now
Yeah.
it's a worldwide phenomenon.
Yeah. I mean, I think about this oftenly, and I'm so incredibly grateful, because I feel like just the moment when I kind of jumped off, the world was starting to look, it wasn't just American content, and it was all of a sudden it was okay. People were interested in looking at things that had different languages, but with American subs, and people like the industry was broadening in a way, and I think it wasn't required that everyone who wasn't American would always have the most perfect American accent, even though we weren't playing American characters. And I think that opened up the industry in a lot of ways, that people could live and work in Europe, and you could do self tapes,
Yeah.
and people were interested in seeing people that knew people who represented different cultures. And I think that was a really exciting time. And I'm really grateful, because I feel like I got to ride on that wave a little bit. Absolutely.
So then who were the artistic teachers or the drama schools that you sought out to, start to develop, kind of a technique, if you will, or a school of study?
Yeah, so in Sweden we have four drama schools that are the Royal Drama Schools, and they're spread out in different cities, and they only take in like 8 students per school every 2 years.
Wow.
And they're very famous in Sweden for they never take anyone in on the first try, and it's a very long process. And I knew that, and I was prepared to get a no. I also know that in Sweden, the coming from a modeling background has a little bit of a different connotation than maybe it
Yeah.
does in America. I think in America, people are maybe it's more part of kind of the American dream, that you can be self-made, that you can be self-taught, that you can reinvent yourself. Perhaps we're a little bit more rigid in the career path that we like to think that actors have in Sweden. I don't know. But I applied. I got far into the process, didn't get in. That hurt my feelings.
Were you able to grapple with that? Because I know what that's like, and a lot of people, it can be so crushing to get that no.
Yeah, I think in a way, I'm glad that I had a 10-year career or something behind me, because you're so used to getting no. I mean,
Yeah.
that I think that's the biggest thing that I can take into my acting. Like, you get 100 no's and then you get one yes, but it's the yes that
So
matters.
true.
And then you put all of your work into it. And you just have to realize that it doesn't mean that you're bad. It doesn't mean that you're not good enough. It doesn't mean that you don't deserve it. It doesn't mean that maybe you're perfect for something else. You can't be right for everything.
Yeah.
And it was hard, but I was like, maybe this is not my time. So I applied to a 1-year course that's like a pre-drama school course. I
In
just
in
wanted to,
Sweden?
in Stockholm, yeah.
Okay.
And that was so, I got in, and it was so fun. We did, so much improvisation and clowning. And it was so wonderful to just let all of those insecurities out, and just be playful and really start working with your body. And it was such a revolutionary experience for me to come into a context where it wasn't so serious. It was a lot of fun, just to
Yeah.
kind of like
Be
improvise.
silly. Totally.
Yeah, be
Yeah.
silly. And like, you don't have to look good. You don't have to behave a certain way. It doesn't matter. Just be there, look at the partner, just say, yes, yes, what's coming your way. Play with it, see where it takes you. And oh, it was so fun. I loved it. And that kind of gave me even more fire to understanding like this is the way. It doesn't matter if it's going to take me 10 years, it's going to take me 50 years, but if I can just be in this world, if I can do this, I'm going to be so happy.
I love to hear that. And did that program have some kind of a showcase for agents for you?
Yeah, not for agents, because in Sweden we probably don't have that much. We have like a few agents, and it's not as, the
So
industry
it'd
is a
be
lot
like
smaller
London
here.
or, like a Europe agent, so to speak, because
Yeah, I no, they have a showcase, but it's more kind of to a theater audience.
oh, okay, sorry.
We played One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and I got to play Billy, which was amazing.
So cool.
Oh, the best! It was so fun, and during that time, I got to read for a couple of parts. I was so new, and I didn't even realize
American or
that
Swedish? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Swedish. No, no,
Okay.
Swedish, and it was, this is going to sound really silly, but I didn't realize when they asked you to come back that it was a good thing. So I was like, oh man, speaking to my friend, I'm like, I went in on Monday. Oh, I must have done something wrong. They asked me to come back again next week. Oh, I don't know what to do differently. And then I went in again, and then they asked me to come back again. And I was like, oh man, I'm really not giving them what they want. And my friend said, Frida, that's a callback. And I was like, yeah, what am I doing wrong? And she's like, no, they want to see something, they like you. That's a good thing. They want to try you with different people. And I was like, oh my God. I then realized I needed to have like a crash course in like how the industry,
The
works. Because,
vernacular of all
you
the,
know,
yeah.
because if you didn't grow up in that, and if you didn't, like, not even at drama school, maybe nowadays, but they don't teach you all of the kind of in and
No,
outs
I
of how
appreciate
to
you
make
saying that.
self tapes and how
Yeah.
to edit them, or like how to do a perfect slate, or stuff like that. That
Or how to
when you
handle
start up,
yourself in a callback, like,
yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, and I just went in and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna act the shit out of this. I'm gonna give it my all. Like it's like, my one shot. And I ended up getting that part, and that was a wonderful a film called Swoon, which had all of some of my favorite Swedish actors in them. And thanks to that, I negotiated that a deal by myself, which is pretty crazy because I didn't have an
badass.
agent. So I was just like, oh yes, this kind of looks good. I don't know, maybe do we get a little percentage up on that or something? And through that, I did get my agent, the wonderful Laura, and she works with, I think, some of the best Scandinavian actors who also work abroad, like Alicia Vikander and
Oh, yeah.
Perez. And she opened up kind of the world in that sense. Yeah.
Especially as, Amazon and Netflix started building up their worldwide programming. For
Mm-hmm.
you, though, when, you dreamed, did the content always kind of like, was the goal America, or was it just to work, or, was it whatever happened? I know that's a tough
I
question to answer.
no, no, it's, and I'm going to be completely honest. I think America has the bigger scope of
Yeah.
productions. I mean, when you look, the industry in Sweden is quite small, and as much as I always wanted to have a dynamic career in the sense of I want to do stuff that I really believe in. Love, I love preparation. I love my job. And if you're going to spend 3 years or 3.5, like with Freitas, doing a project, I want to feel that I go to work every single day with the biggest smile and just going like, this is the best. I want to
Yeah.
feel excited about what I get to do. And to me, it doesn't matter. I'll work in the tiniest part, in the tiniest little Slovenian indie film, if it's something that I believe in. So for me, I said to Laura, I'm like, I want to read for many things. I want to always kind of make sure that the next step is something that's a little bit unexpected. I love pushing myself and trying to go into new arenas. And luckily, that's been working out so far. But
Well,
who knows?
no, it's going to keep working out. I promise you that. Was The Witcher your first Netflix gig?
Yeah, yeah. And it was so crazy. Oh my God. I worked in Sweden beforehand, and I thought I'd been on a big movie set. And then to come in, and it's like, I mean, just the
$50
amount of
million
people.
movie set.
Yeah, oh my
Yeah.
God. And you're like, what is that? They're like, that's Henry Cavill's trailer. You're like,
Yeah, it's insane.
it's insane. No, but it was so cool. He was so lovely. I got to come in and play Harold's mom, Henry, played by the absolutely charming Henry Cavill, who was such a pro. And to me, that was such a wonderful experience to come on a huge movie set, to feel that the number one was the nicest. He
Yeah.
saw the way that just the way that he treated everyone. He knew everyone's names. He was so nice to me, like this unknown Swedish girl coming in. And he's like, I have this idea. What do you think about that? Do you want to go and rehearse it? Do you want to talk about it? I was so inspired by that. And when I learned that I was going to play Freydis, there's a lot of things that I stole from him in terms of how I want to set to work. I want everyone to feel, doesn't matter how small your part, it doesn't matter if you make the coffee. It's a team effort. Everyone is needed for it to be the best it can be. And I think it's really important to bring that energy to set, that it's a shared experience and everyone is equal in that sense. So I'm really grateful for that opportunity.
That's amazing. And it's so true as an actor, the number one on that call sheet, they set the tone for that show, let alone
Mm-hmm.
every day. So when you have someone that's great, it just changes everything. And
Absolutely. And it's so important.
yeah, and in my personal opinion, maybe I'll get in trouble for saying this, like it takes more energy to be mean than it does to just be a good person and show up on time, you know?
100%.
And
100%. I completely agree with that.
it's the least you could do because everyone is working just as hard. And even though you and I are actors, it is a collaborative medium, as I'm
Mm.
sure you know better than anyone at this point. So then when you do a show like that, I imagine you become on Netflix's radar. Was, Jeb Stuart developing the show, and did you get a meeting, or talk to me about how Vikings and Freitas came your way?
So I was in Romania shooting a movie called Damper, an Italian comic book. And my co-star Wade turns around and he said he had heard about this and do you know anything about it? Because he's like, I was a big fan of Vikings, and I was like, I was a big fan of Vikings,
It's my
and
history.
and I was like, excuse me, I know that show, I love it. So I'm like, oh, give me a second, I'm just gonna step outside. I'm just gonna make a phone call my agent. Panic. How come I haven't heard about this? Oh my God, you need it. And she's like, no, no, calm down. We were just about to send this to you. There's this one part in it. She's like, it's incredible. They're gonna read, everyone in the world, of course. But she's like, I think you're gonna love it. I start reading it and it's like, I don't know if you've ever had this experience meeting a character, but it's like she showed up.
Yeah.
I just saw her. I just felt it. And I was like, I just know exactly what I want to do with her.
Yeah.
I just know what I want to bring. And I got this fire. I think it's probably the first time it ever happened to me where I was like, this is my part. You can try to take it away from me, but this is my part.
Love
And
that.
if anyone else gets it, I'm going to fucking kill them.
Yeah, I know.
Because
I
I
just
was like,
lost one about
yeah.
that, but I had the same attitude going in. I still might kill them. I'm just kidding.
But it was like, it was the first time I felt so strongly about it. And
Was this
I
pre-COVID, by the way, just for the audience?
yeah.
Okay.
This was pre-COVID, so this was probably like October, November 2019. I did a tape, four
So it wasn't
scenes.
in person, even though it was pre-COVID.
No, it
Okay.
was
Okay.
I because I was on production and then traveling in between that production and home. I was tied into that, so I did a self-tape as one usually does. You do it, you're like, oh, I feel great about this. You send it into the universe. 9 times out of 10, you don't even get a reply.
Yeah.
But
Boomerang it
that's
is what they call it,
yeah, yeah. I'm just calling it you sending it out into the universe. And they're like, oh, it's up there somewhere with all of the other, self tapes just floating around in space. But
How hard did you work on that tape? Did you just keep going and going? And
no, so the interesting thing with Freitas and my work with her, and I've spoken to Jeb about this many times, Jeb Stuart, our showrunner, she's so in me. Like, usually my like first or second take is always the one that we use. And then we start kind of going into it. And I don't know what it is, but she's so instinctual to me.
yeah.
It's like I had this 2000 or like 1,000-year-old Viking woman living inside me that just had to come out. And I work so much with the prep. So I like to know that when I show up on set, it's there and we can just look at the other actor and we unleash something and it comes out. The way that I work with Sam, Corlett, who plays my brother Leif, who I adore.
Incredible actor.
Fantastic. And we just sat down at the chemistry read, and I just looked at him and I was like, brother. And he looked at me and he's like, sister. And we hugged. And then we played the scene. And
This was like a chemistry read audition.
Yeah. So after we did the self tape, they flew us in, me, Sam, and Leo, David Oakes, Laura Berlin,
David
to
and Leo
do
yeah.
the best. I mean, like the list goes on. We've had the best cast.
It's
The
incredible.
best time. It's insane. Like you just like
I
these
love
friends.
Victoria, and so many came over from that show.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Shout out Victoria.
Yeah.
No, but it's been wonderful. I mean, we've had such a good rapport in between all of us, but working especially with Sam and Leo for me has been so fantastic. They're very different as actors, but it's just been so fantastic that we've had that sacred space that we can just really dive into it together. And I've felt so held by them, and I hope they feel the same way because we were, it's a big show with big set pieces, but you still really, really want to have those human emotions, those human elements come through. And when you work at a very high pace, like TV usually is, you don't always have that much time. And to really trust your coworkers, to really know that we can push each other and go beyond what's expected. It's changed the way, and I look at my work in so many different ways.
Did you, Sam and Leo, have time to meet up before and rehearse?
Oh yeah, I mean we did our self tapes. We did our chemistry read. I think late January. We then got the job, and they're like, "Hey, we're going to start shooting in 2 weeks." We came back. We start doing costume and hair and makeup fittings. And while we're there, the COVID numbers come in. There's one case in Ireland. There's four
And
cases.
there
There's in
being Ireland. Sorry.
Ireland. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry for being unclear about that. Yeah, so we filmed Vikings Valhalla
All
in
three
Ireland, and
seasons, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
and production made the right decision to say, hey, we're gonna take a step back while our legal and health team can work out a way that we can operate safely. So we were all, we traveled back home not quite knowing when we were going to come back, but Jeb and Nils Arden Upliv, our wonderful, super talented director, who is a Danish director who is fantastic. We did kind of a weekly, or then turned into twice a week Zoom calls, just the five of us, just hanging out. I was at my country house, and Leo's, we're spread out all over the world, and just, have time to get to know each other, to just spitball, talk about ideas. And then me and Sam would have our calls, and I'd have calls with Leo. And so when we got back in, I think I want to say late June of 2020, we'd spent 4 months together, like getting to know
Wow.
each other so so well. So the amount of prep we put into it, I think, was so helpful when you then start shooting.
Did you have all 8 before cameras rolled? Scripts? That is.
No, no,
Wow.
yeah. And it was so fun because sometimes we would be talking about these ideas, and Jeb would just kind of lean back with a little smirk on his face,
Taking.
and or you would know you're kind of touching into something that we don't want to really further expand on, or he
Yeah.
would just go, "You'll see," and you're like, "Ah,
Yeah.
tell me everything." But it was, for me as an actor, being invited to sit at the table like we have been on this show, it's been the most profound experience in my professional career. Jeb Stuart is so talented and so generous with his time, with his knowledge. I mean, he's been in the industry for decades, and
Did
he
Die Hard,
knows.
right? I mean, that was one
I
of
mean,
his.
it's
Yeah.
it's it's legendary, and
Yeah.
he's a very generous man, and I'm gonna hope that all of my future projects get to resemble this one, because even if they do slightly, I'm gonna be the luckiest person. Because this has really been a collaborative experience in every possible way, and to me, I felt like that's quite rare.
That's amazing. And I only bring this up because, I just got a chance to do a period piece myself for HBO. So, being on those sets, you don't really understand the scale and how it all works, green screen,
Mm.
till you're there. So, once you got there, I mean, this show, I'm going to say something that people will agree with or not. I think this show's so much better than Game of Thrones. I mean, also,
Oh,
I love history. You know, fantasy's not really my thing, and no disrespect to the cast, they're all incredible in that show, but this show, it is amazing, and the fact that even though there might be some dramatic you know expansions of history,
hmm.
I it is so good. What did it feel like to be on something? I mean, obviously, I know there's composites, but that just is. It seems like a lot of it was practical. Am I
Oh
wrong?
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it was insane. I'll never forget. We had the first day. It was me and Sam, and we were doing camera tests in the backlot, and the backlot of Ashford Studios. That is where they filmed, the Tudors and all of the seasons of Vikings. And the backlot is huge.
Wow. What part of
And
Ireland is that?
this is in the beautiful County Wicklow, so it's about an hour south of Dublin, and
Okay.
we filmed the majority in County Wicklow, which is the it's just so beautiful there. You've got the huge mountains and the fjords and beautiful beaches and forests, and it all
So
eerily
Kattegat,
looks like
Jomsburg, all that is there.
yeah, and it all
Wow.
eerily looks like Sweden, for me being very particular about the way a Swedish forest would actually look like to show up. And
So
you're
you're on
like,
the
oh,
production design meetings too.
yeah. I'm like, we should have more birch trees.
Yeah.
No, no, but I remember just me and Sam looking at each other saying, like, I hope somebody's taking a picture of this. And then we're like, oh yeah, we're actually making a TV show. That's true. Somebody is definitely recording this. But to just show up and to see the scale where you would have 150 supporting artists and 50 horses and 33 ships and goats and the whatnot,
And
it's just
extras, right?
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's crazy. Like on a day we could be like 12, 1,500 people, and coming out from working mostly in Sweden, that's insane. That's huge.
Yeah.
It was absolutely crazy. And for the
And
history
during
part of it,
COVID, of all of it too.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
shout out to our incredible COVID department, but also to everyone. Making a TV show is hard. Like the electric department, all of our grips. I mean, costume, makeup. Everyone had to work twice as hard because you're
Yeah.
not only carrying around a steady cam, but you're doing it with two masks and a visor. And our makeup department, who's putting a little bit of extra beards on people. I'm not going to say who they added
I
beards
think I
to.
have an idea.
Uh,
I can't grow a beard either.
yes,
Yeah.
but for them, and then we're in masks. It makes it harder.
Yeah.
But I also at the same time want to say we were incredibly lucky to be able to keep shooting throughout the entire pandemic. And I know majority of people in the world didn't have that privilege to be able to have a job to go to during the middle of the pandemic. So I know we were incredibly fortunate to to keep going. And in a strange way, I think it was totally a blessing in disguise because we ended up getting so close, not just as a cast, but as the entire crew, because we were in a big bubble together.
Yeah.
We felt like such a family. And so, when you're on a set and in the beginning, everyone's kind of getting to know each other. And by the end, it's
First
like
day of
you've had this,
school vibes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
like at the end, it's like you've had like this long marriage and you like know everyone. And you're like, hey, man, like you say hi to your kid. And like, yeah, I'll see you there after work, and you get into that like super familiar vibe. For us, we just had to get into it straight away. We knew when we were coming in that
It was
everyone
a
had to say
3 year
goodbye.
commitment.
Yeah, and also we filmed for about 7 months of the year, and because of the pandemic you're not allowed to leave and you can't go home. So even if you're not shooting for a couple of days or maybe a week or maybe more than a week, everyone's there, and we had to become that support system for each other on and off camera. So
Yeah.
it really, I think, helped us get that, intimacy and to get really close.
It shows, and obviously there's so much depth and great character scenes, but there's obviously a lot of physicality. So even on your perhaps days off, whatever few you may had, did you have every day, wake up 4 a.m., go to hair and makeup, rehearse, and then on a day off you're in stunt training for 9 hours?
Yeah, probably pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, they're kind though, because you don't have to do 9 hours of stunt training, but we had the most incredible team of stunt performers and stunt choreographers and fight coordinators. They came up with these incredibly elaborate, but yet at the same time character driven fights, and it was so wonderful to work with them on that. Some fights we had, months to prepare. Some fights we had to, be able to shoot it in like 4 days. So
Wow.
the longer we kind of get into the season, the more we, at least for me, because I got to learn with Freitas when we meet her in episode 1 of season 1, she's not an experienced fighter. She's a survivor. She's a huntress. And towards the end of the first season, she's become this trained shield maiden. So I was kind of lucky in that sense that I could kind of learn with Freitas as we were shooting, going from fist fights or strangling someone with my bracelet to actually being able to fight more upright with sword and shield. And they were so patient with us because none of us had really fought with 200 axes or shields before.
And when
And
you want, sorry to interrupt again, but when you
yeah.
wanted, was it you in there doing the stunts?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Wow.
We got to do all of our own stunts. Richard Ryan, our incredible, master of stunts, did kind of a vet check of us, and he's like, "Yeah, you, Sam, Leo, you're all good to go. We're going to push you. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard, but we trust you, and I know you can do this." And to feel that support behind us, I think for all the three of us was incredible. That we were pushed to the farthest of our abilities, and then we could always find another gear. And when you have those long days when you're doing battles, because it's 12
Oh,
hours with
yeah.
15 kilos of real chainmail and real leather, and you're fighting and you're up to your knees in mud and you're covered in blood and you're bruised and shit hurts, to have them come up and just look at you and go like, "You got this, we believe in you, it looks awesome, keep going, push through it." They were so wonderful, and I'm so grateful that they believed in us and really let us push ourselves that we could perform it ourselves.
And your work is so rich on this, you can tell. I mean, it's so weird talking to you as Frida, because I see you as Freitas, because you're so, I mean, you're just so multidimensional. Earlier you talked about being 2D, but this is like, it's almost 4D, because there's so many layers to her and the journey she goes through. I mean, journeys. She's so many different
Mm.
people after all these good and bad events that happened to her. And for you not getting all the scripts ahead of time, did Jeb kind of come in your ear at the beginning of each season and kind of give you the broad strokes of where she was
Mm-hmm.
heading? So for you, as acting homework, you knew where to play. Okay, in this scene, she knows this and doesn't know that yet. Was
Mm-hmm.
that tough mapping that out?
No, because for me, the way that I work, I don't know what you're going to ask me. I can prepare for my everyday life,
Yeah.
and I know what we're semi about to do. It's like the same way you open a door and you go into a room and you're like, "Well, my brother's going to be there," but you don't really exactly know where everything takes you. And I like to, work in that way that I can prep as much as I can, but then I want to trust that I've done my homework. I know what I want to say. I know what the scene is about for me, but I also want to be influenced by the other person or people that are there. And it's a collaborative experience. I think the magic kind of always comes from, maybe I've envisioned the scene to be a certain way, and then Sam or Leo comes up with a nuance that I possibly didn't pick up because I read the part or the scene from my point of view, and it pushes you into a new direction the same way a conversation can pull you into direction. And afterwards you go, "Oh wow, I didn't expect this to end up there." And
Yeah.
I think that's really beautiful. But with Jeb, it was so wonderful for us to come in knowing that we were going to do 3 seasons from the start, and knowing that we had a leader who had the entire tapestry mapped out with incredible detail, and he knew all of it, where it was going. And for us to just go, we trust you. We
Yeah.
know that if you need us to know something, you're going to tell us. But it's not always necessary for us to know exactly what's going to happen in episode 7 of season 2 while you're shooting episode 2 of season 1.
Yeah.
So in
Totally.
that sense, I was really thankful that he gave us the golden nuggets that we kind of needed. And when we felt that we needed to discuss something, the door was always open. And that was incredible.
Well, I know you shot them all back to back, but were you shooting 2 and 1 at the same time, or just 1, then moved on to season 2 and then 3? Or was it
Well,
all?
because yeah, it was kind of a mix because of the pandemic and how it hit us while we were shooting season 1. We did the first 6 episodes in 2020. Then we came back 2021 and filmed the last blocks of the last 7 and 8. of season one. We had the weekend, and then on Monday we started with season two.
Wow.
Yeah.
How was that being there for so long? I mean,
I can't
Sweden.
complain. I love it. I'm like, I had the
Yeah.
best time.
Yeah.
I never wanted to leave. No, but it was such a wonderful experience. I think we filmed the Battle of Kattegat, which is a really hard week for me and Sam and Leo. We all had huge stunts and very emotional scenes, and there was loved ones who passed, and there was a very hard week. And then we could all kind of go into the weekend knowing like, oh, season two is on Monday.
Let's
The
get a
new
Guinness tonight.
beginning. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like maybe two, maybe
Yeah. A
three.
shot.
Yeah, let's go crazy.
Yeah.
But in the pandemic, so it was all fine. There was no bars to go to.
That's amazing though. And I love that. And I'm curious, bringing it back to your experience in fashion, Freitas's outfits are beautiful. Did you get to have any kind of say on, the attention to detail on that? Because, between Uppsala and all the different, uniforms that she wears, I mean, the attention, I mean, they all seem like they could be in museums, those pieces.
Yeah, and I hope they will be one day because our costume, the scope of this production is so wonderful. I mean, I'll never forget when I got to tour the studio for the first time, and we have the costume department, and it's just so massive, and they're all experts. So you have some people whose job it is to create all of these amazing leather armor, and somebody who works with chainmail, and somebody who works with building, intricate belt buckles, and everything is so thoroughly researched. So you can go into Susan O'Connor Cave, our costume designer's office, and she'll say, "Oh, that belt buckle, it's inspired by this one that they found in this grave, and it's coming from this." And they have done their research so thoroughly. Um,
So it's
I
not
think,
arbitrary. It's all very, done for a practical or historical accuracy.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we don't have zippers in our pants.
No way. I
Yeah.
hate going to the bathroom on that set.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when you're in your chainmail leather costume, and then you have like a tunic, and then you've got belts, and you don't have a zipper in your pants, and it creates some interesting opportunities for you to get very close to your costume assistant.
I'm sure.
But I love that. I think that for as an actor, I think anything that's as authentic as possible always helps. And I love that. I loved coming to work and feeling that everyone just wanted to do their absolute maximum to create this rich show. And the costumes were such a huge part of it. And I love how all of the different characters, were represented in their clothes. For example, Sam Corlett, who's vegan, he worked with vegan leathers for
Oh,
all of
I love
Leif's
that.
costumes. And, stuff like that just makes me so thrilled that we can all put good things into the costumes.
And I know season 2 is out, but I'm curious, while you were filming, season 2 and season 1 came out, what was that experience like to have a show come out while you're also simultaneously working on the next season? Was that scary? Was that fun? Because it became so huge, but I imagine,
Yeah.
you're doing this thing in a bubble and you're like, I hope people like it. And then
I mean,
everyone loved it.
you're absolutely right. When we were filming season three, actually, this year, the show had come out. So we did season one and two before no one had seen anything.
Wow.
And
Okay.
that was so wild. Yet at the same time, I think for us, the best, because you didn't feel that pressure of what did people like, what are people going to think. We could just create in our free bubble. We were all like living together, just coming to work, having the best time, pushing each other, just loving the scripts and creating something that we all believed in and loved. And then when the first season came out, of course I felt so strongly about what we created, and I'm so proud of what we done. But you never know, people
Yeah.
might not like it, and for it to then be well received. And I think, at least for me, getting messages from girls and young women all over the world, from Pakistan to the Philippines, it meant the world to have people watch what you put your blood, sweat, and tears into, and for them to be inspired by that was, yeah, it like it just makes me so emotional. It
Well, as
really
it
does.
should, because I can imagine, spending time in the other industry, which at times can, literally by definition be superficial, to come into this show that's anything but. It is as deep as it gets. And for you to rise to that occasion, give historical accuracy, to kick some ass, make some men look fucking weak. I mean, I'm talking season 2 final battle there. Just beat the shit out of people while nailing it acting wise. I mean, was there ever a day on set where you finally had that moment of like looking back, being a kid playing for your parents, where, I, not that the work is over, but like, I'm here. I'm doing it. Did you ever have that moment?
I mean, so oftenly, I just like just being able to come into work some days and just look around and just looking at all of these people that you love, that you work with, and they bring so much wonderful things. And just to be able to have that opportunity to throw everything you got into a character like that brought me to tears so many times, just to be
You
able to.
brought me to tears, so thank
I
you.
mean,
Yeah.
it's so fantastic. And yeah, I'm just so incredibly grateful that I've gotten to have this opportunity. And I think season 2 was a very hard journey for Freitas.
Yeah.
You didn't really expect it could get any worse from
I
season
did
1,
not see it coming at all.
but it
You thought it
could.
was going to
It
go
could.
good, and then
Well, I was like, I kind of had an out, a plan of what me and Jeb had talked to, and Jeb's. We've had so many very, personal and deep discussions about where to kind of go with Freitas and how can we bring her forward and what other aspects of her can we lift forward and how can we make her richer and more complex. And then then the script started coming in, and I'm like, oh, it's a hard season.
yeah,
And I felt like I really wanted to continue to bring everything I could into this character, but we started venturing into like motherhood, for example. I'm not a mother myself, so I haven't gone through the process of pregnancy and giving birth. And knowing that that was coming, I spent a couple of months researching and interviewing all of my friends who had given birth, and calling people who worked as midwives and interviewing them and watching births on YouTube, and all of just going into this as deeply as I could, because I feel like that's such a powerful event, and I wanted to give that as much authenticity as I possibly could. I feel like sometimes with births or in it's kind of Hollywood glossed over. You're
yeah.
somebody who, and I wanted, that was probably one of the hardest days in my career. But at the end, I feel really happy that I feel like we created something that's closer to truth than fiction.
The maternal aspects were just so beautiful. I mean, it made me, I having been in relationships and having people that have children. I mean, you knocked it out of the park. You were so good. I mean, I could cry.
Oh, thank you so
Thank
much.
you for your service to the work and the depth that you had to go to. I can only imagine how hard and beautiful it was. And I'm proud of you. And
Thank you
so
so much.
I don't want to take up all your time, but I know now 3 will air later this year, correct? And then
I think so. Yeah, I'm not
okay,
100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
when it's gonna
Netflix will
air,
let us know. Netflix
yeah.
will let us know. Yeah.
But you guys have kind of a break to hear about maybe other seasons, right?
I would say so. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and then
Mm.
the reason I'm asking is like right now there's a little bit of time. What do you want to do with that time? Because you've been away for 3 years. I imagine there's no shortage of emails and phone calls, and you could do things in Sweden or America or anywhere you wanted. But,
Mm.
I'm sure it's very tricky for you because, finding that time to balance your own life and to just be able to have a break versus like also being able to do other things. So where do you kind of find yourself now, if you're okay talking about
Yeah. No,
it?
absolutely. I think
Yeah.
it's interesting because as you're, with this job, the peaks are incredibly high and the valleys are very low. It's hard because
Yeah.
it's such a. I'm a person who's very attracted to like adrenaline and rushes, and you usually get that from your work, right? And you come to set and you pour all of your into it, and then you come home and you're so exhausted, and there's no time for phone call with your husband or even your friends, and
Yeah.
you come home from filming 7 months, and usually for me, I spend the first 3 weeks at home just sleeping. I'm
Sleeping.
so tired.
Yeah.
I can't function. I'm like, I have nothing to say. I have no one. I have no script. I don't know. And then I slowly you kind of get into the, ins and out of everyday life. And it's funny, how much you can miss being at home on a
Yeah,
Tuesday, washing the dishes.
totally.
And and then, after a while that wears out. I'm a person who I've spent 18 out of my 30 years alive working. I love working. It's a part of me that will never tire. I love to continuously, challenge myself. So I'm gonna keep working. We have some things that we're working on right now, and I'm very excited for that. But also to just try to, find that
Be a
balance and
human.
spending the yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, grocery shop, man.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know, change the tires on my car.
Totally. Get an oil
I miss
change.
that. Yeah,
Go to
I miss
Ikea
oh
cafeteria.
yes. Meatballs. Come on.
You feel an inclination now to start a production company of your own?
Absolutely. I think it's a wonderful time also for especially for actresses. I feel there's in my generation so many fantastic actresses that I look up to so much who've been able to forge their own path. I mean, look at Reese Witherspoon, look at
Yeah.
Nicole Kidman, look at Margot Robbie.
Yeah.
She's an icon in our time, and it's so powerful to see them taking charge of their own of the stories that they want to tell, not just to put themselves into productions, but also telling these wonderful stories, female led, female driven projects. I think that's
Yeah. Even when they're not in them,
incredible. Yeah,
promising young
absolutely.
woman, crawdads.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an inspiration, and 100% that's something that's the wheels are turning, but it's too early to kind of say what will come into fruition of that.
Well,
We'll see.
I can't say enough. I'm proud of you, but also I want you to know that you're an amazing actress, or actor. I don't really like to, because that's all we
Yeah,
do the same thing. And, I hope you know how much depth you have. And you're one of those titans. I see it now, and maybe you can't see it yet because you're so in it and it's so new, but I know so many amazing things are coming for you, and you deserve every single one of them. You're an outstanding human. I can sense your energy now, and I know I don't know you that well, and we just met, but I'm genuinely like I'm just so happy for you.
oh,
And I just
thank you
want
so much.
so many amazing things for you, and I really hope one day that we get a chance to work together, and it would
That would
be
be the best. That
it.
would be the best. I
I
feel the absolute same way about you. So
Oh, thank you.
let's
And
let's manifest it into the universe.
yeah, and come back
Yeah.
when season
Yeah.
3 comes, whenever that may be. But uh,
Yeah.
as you know, if you've listened, I ask every guest this final question, and I apologize because I know it's not an easy one. But for the young Frida who's there, Wanderlust, Hollywood, even if they don't live in Sweden, but they live in Alabama, in
Mm-hmm.
America, and the idea of being in this business seems so far away. They're unsure of themselves and their
Mm-hmm.
confidence, and they want to do it. Any words of wisdom you might have?
Yeah. I love this question, and I've been thinking about it, and I'm turning 30 this year, and I think for me it's
Happy
kind of
birthday.
thank you so much. And it's a part where I feel like I said before, I worked for more than the majority of my life. And something that I've really learned, and that's especially been cemented in the last couple of years, is that there's only one you. Don't compare yourself to other people. Your path is your path. You can't change that. What is in store for you? Only the universe knows. And don't doubt yourself. I spent so many years
Yeah.
young looking at other people, trying to change the way that I talked and the way that I looked, and to be skinnier, to be, looking like other
To
people.
assimilate into what worked for them.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's their path. That's
Yeah.
what's right for them. But what makes you good, what makes you special is you. You can't change that. And lean into that. Always when your gut tells you something, that's your truth. Don't fight that. Lean into that, because that's when good things are going to start happen. That's when you become special. That's when you lean into your talent. That's what's going to make you stand out, because there's only that one you. And took me a long time to realize that. And
Yeah.
I know it sounds so cliche, but it's harder than it sounds to actually say no to things if you don't want to.
Yeah.
You don't have to change who you are to fit in. You just don't.
Thank you for saying that. That means everything. And to be honest, I needed to hear that myself, and so beautiful. And I can't tell you how grateful I am for your time and coming on and sharing all of this. It was one of my favorite conversations. And I've got so much love for you and so much excitement. And please come back for season 3 and let's work together soon. And,
Oh, I would love that. I would
and
love that. Thank you so much. Thank you.
thank
This has
you.
been the best.
And yeah, I'm just so thrilled you're doing it, man. And you really are the keeper of the faith. Sorry to make a bad joke, but
I
I
love
got
that.
faith.
I'm like virtual hug right now.
So much love. Okay. And
Yeah, likewise. Thank you
enjoy
so
this
much.
downtime and make sure you really, you find time for you. I know you just got married. So, enjoy that. It's such a beautiful
Thank
time
you
in your
so
life.
much. Thank you so much. This has been so wonderful. Thank you for the deepness and your passion about these tough questions and shedding light on the process that's not always easy. And I'm a huge fan. Thank you so much for having me.
Likewise. And to be continued. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So much love.